Boom. The 1978 podcast with Nate Duncan, the
buddy.
actor, director, and probably a handful of other things.
Gigolo. Escort. No, just
whatever pays the bills.
Right? Jeez, times are rough here.
Yeah. Hit the streets. Get paid somehow, somewhere.
It's crazy times, to say the least. But good to see you, man.
You too, dude.
Yeah.
We go back a ways.
We do. We go back quite a ways, actually, if you think about it. It's kind of crazy. I was talking to Loanne a few weeks ago. And, it's been a long time, man.
Sure has.
Yeah.
I've noticed the quality of stuff that you've done. You know, I was kind of mentioning this to somebody else I was doing a podcast with. The quality and like the standards of the work that not only that you've done as an actor, but as a director or actor-director has like been this constant. You don't ever go back down to something else. You seem to always be doing something just a little better, and like whatever you learned and whatever person you met, you do that next step, you know, whether it's big or incremental, you kind of keep that momentum, which is, it's a good thing to see.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And that's definitely what I strive for. In every project that I do, I want to make sure that it's definitely better than the last. And I work tirelessly to do that. Because of that, it's kind of delayed certain projects because I got to the point where I felt like a little too much time in between projects because I wanted to make sure that I did it right. But I don't regret that in the least because the quality really has been enhanced. And that's, I feel like, a big thing is you always want to get better, right? You always want to learn and improve and hopefully not go backwards. And that's definitely what I've been focusing on. And I've been grateful that I feel that that's been the trajectory of my work as well. And it's thanks to a lot of great people that I've met along the way that have helped me out.
Yeah.
And learned from.
That's probably oh, dude, if anything, I've learned from you, really.
I'm sure we all learn from each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of learning, I want to actually talk to you about the movie, The Interview.
Yeah.
When you did that film, you took on the actor, like director, and probably producer and whatever else.
Yeah.
Can you, like, from your point of view, can you tell me, I guess not what you learned, but more getting a project on its feet by yourself, or it's maybe not by yourself, but better way to describe it would be getting a project on your feet that's your baby and having to get all the people and the timing and sort of steer the ship from the get-go all the way to through post and everything. What are the things that you kind of loved and hated about that? What made it great or difficult?
Yeah, well, there's a love-hate relationship with every project that I'm attached to, and I think a lot of people could relate to that. And I think what I had a biggest problem with this film specifically is really letting go and letting other people help me. Because when I start a project, since I write it and I direct it and produce all of them, I have the vision of everything that I want to do and how I want it to work out. So because of that, it can be hard to let go of certain things because you kind of want to oversee, almost micromanage too much. That's something that I definitely did in my first few films, even though I felt like I was very happy with them. It took a lot of energy, and it wasn't, I feel like, giving other people who are incredibly creative and passionate and just great at what they do, their full reign. And that was one of the things that I learned, is to just hire people that you trust and that you hopefully have that are good in their department, whatever that might be, and kind of let them get full reign, or not full reign, but allow them to be as creative as possible. And if it's something that's very different from your idea, then maybe you have a conversation with them, but hopefully you're very clear with what you want in the beginning, and then allow them to kind of take that off and be creative with that in their own right. And that's what I was able to do with this project. And in all honesty, that's something that I definitely want to do much more of as well, because even with this project, there were certain things that I had a hard time kind of letting go. But it can be very hard if you're trying to do everything in a project, right? And especially if it's your baby, you want it to make sure that it comes out as best quality as possible. But sometimes you kind of have to just let go and believe in other people. And that's what I was able to do with this project. And I'm hopeful I'm able to do it even more so in the future. Well, I need to be, because it's almost impossible to do everything on your own and maintain sanity.
Yeah. I think you nailed it when you said trust. I mean, that's got to be the biggest part of it is, you have a vision, and you had a vision ever since you wrote something. And then when it comes down to, the guy that's doing props for you or something, and you're like there's a knife, let's say, and this is the knife that the killer was given to him by his dad, and he killed his brother with it, whatever. Like, just, it kind of has meaning, right? Let's say it's a special thing. And the prop guy's like, well, hell, I got a knife. Here's a knife. And you're like, no, that doesn't look anything like the knife that this guy would have, So it could be hard to describe. It could be minutia to someone else, but to you, it's very special to that character and to the story.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And those, while they might seem like, simple things in a sense, it to me, those minor details can be very changing and can kind of change the trajectory of where I want to go within a story. So there's certain things that I might shift creative judgment to whoever's in charge, whether if I don't feel like it's that big of a deal, but there's certain things that are kind of deal breakers, and I'm like, no, this is, I have this vision, and there's no deal.
Can't flex on this. Some things you can bend on, but like there's some things that just like, no, it's got, the guy's suit has to be a white suit. Like, it just has to be white or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And
you hear about like these, James Cameron screaming and taking a hold of the whatever the camera or the prop or the smoke or the machine, and doing it himself, and you think he's got this vision and he can't let go, or it's not being done right, and but there's definitely those directors out there that they wanted
those stories, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm not that director by any means.
Right.
One of the things that I will not touch is my DP's camera specifically, just because I know I have that agreement with him. I trust him with all of his lenses and camera, and I won't touch or tweak that. Yeah. That's like his baby, and I've learned that just through working with him. And I've worked with several other DPs that are great, but it's more so. But I do try to be as collaborative as possible, and even with all crew members, and I'm open to all ideas. It doesn't mean that I'm going to do every single idea, but I am very accepting of different ideas, and do actually encourage crew members to speak up if they feel like something would be interesting, whatever it might be. I don't always do that, but I do encourage that, and I'm open to that. I know not everybody is, but that's one of the things that I like to do, is I want people to feel that they can voice any opinions or ideas, and get feel like there's free reign to do that. And every set that I'm a part of. And sometimes I get a little carried away, so you kind of like, all right, that's good for the day. I appreciate
it's a fine line. It really is.
It is. It really is, man.
Because when you're on a show that's a big budget or something, and you're just doing your one job, whatever that job is, they don't always want to hear everyone's opinion. But then you get on and you're doing your own thing with your friends, and everybody's got an opinion. And so, how do you draw the line? And it's an interesting game to play, where you want to be collaborative, but you also somehow have to maintain that leadership role and get the job done and stay on track and stay within budget and the time and everything, but also keep it looking the way it needs to look, and having all these creative crafts done the way they need to be done, whether it's camera or set design or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And the thing is, while I do encourage that as a director, or even producers, depending on what you're doing, you have to ultimately make a decision and be very firm about that. And if you get too loosey, then you get. And the thing that I've noticed is almost everybody has an opinion at some point.
Yeah. Yes.
Some people are more open about vocalizing them than others, but everybody's got an opinion on how you should do something. But at the end of the day, if it's your project, you have to really go with your gut, and it's good to listen to advice, especially to those, if there's certain people that are experts in a certain department. It's one thing, for example, like if an extra is telling me like what camera movement I should do, like depending on their background.
Yeah.
I mean, even though I'm open to it, like there's certain things that I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I appreciate that. And sometimes they've had some good ideas, but other times it's like, okay, like it's getting a little out of control.
It's
But like you
funny
said,
about this business is it's so creative that you get people that can't help themselves sometimes. And it's like they don't see that they're kind of stepping pretty far out of their zone. And it's like, you need to stay in your lane. You know, this isn't your show. You're just here to do this one job and you're being compensated. So, you know, it's hard to deal with that sometimes. You know, if you go work at a bank, you don't get a lot of people telling you how to run your register. But you go to a movie set and everyone thinks they know how to do it, you know?
It's so true. But that's why I encourage people to do their own projects so they have their own control. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I started is because I felt like as an actor, I had, you know, different ideas or things that I wanted to do, but I had a small voice, right? So I wanted to basically have ownership or be able to create something that I wanted with my vision. So that's why I started, you know, this whole process of creating my own films. And I encourage people to do so, because with the technology now, it's just about finding ways to be creative and not spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that you can do now for very limited to, you know, low cost. Obviously, you want to continue to get better and enhance, and certain things definitely cost money, to say the least. But even starting off, you can start off kind of small, then work your way up.
Every production that I read about, whether it's Star Wars or your friend's movie, they all have the same goal, or many similar goals, one of them being budget, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you look at like a lot of these things like James Cameron with the Avatar stuff, what's the stuff, the Disney thing, the Mandalorian.
A Mandalorian, yeah.
You know, and the technology they're using for the camera in the background with the images displayed and the tracking of the camera. I would think that probably the core reason behind most of that is to reduce cost of production, amongst other things.
Yeah, you would assume, right? But those,
because they're not doing it to make it more expensive. You're sure there's no way whatever you saw was done because it was more expensive. There's a reason. It may have been more expensive, but it was probably at that point because it looked a lot better. Or whatever, but
yeah, and those productions already have, you know, an incredible budget for the most part compared to, you know, traditional, like, let's say, indie film, which is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I can't even fathom, you know, some of the things that I'd be able to do if I even had like half of that budget. Right. But I think the good thing about kind of starting off small is it forces you to be creative. It forces you to find ways to do things at low cost. And then if you have the money to do so, then it's kind of like the sky's the limit.
I get blown away when I read about these. I mean, it was a different time, but, you know, like, I keep referencing James Cameron, but Terminator 1, I think was $6 million.
That's crazy.
And they did a lot with $6 million. I mean, maybe it went over for reshoots later or something, but primarily, and I don't know if that included marketing and all that, but you figure for a sci-fi with heavy effects.
Yeah, and when it came out too, and I don't know, whenever it was in the 80s at that time frame.
I believe.
Yeah, I'm sure that was, you know, still fairly expensive, right? And for him to be able to do that with that budget is completely.
I can't believe they did it. Like I don't know what $6 million in 1984 translates to today, if it's 10 or 12 million or what, but that's like you almost think that's mastery of producing and budget management to get that much for $6 million.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even let's say, as you said, it was on the high end of that of 12, or let's even say 15. Could you imagine like a movie like The Terminator costing 15 million. I mean, obviously it'd have all different types of crazy like special effects, more so now, but still, I mean, that's absolutely incredible. And you hear stories of directors that are like that, can be creative, or also that kind of take big risks. Like I heard about how the Wachowskis who did The Matrix, they had whatever it was, that $10 million for the film, and they just kind of shot that intro scene.
Did they?
That's what I heard. I got to do a little bit more research on them, but that's what I heard, that they just saw the intro scene with that $10 million, and they showed it to the producer. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, we're going to give you some more money.
Okay. So let me see what you like. It's probably something that The Matrix, you could describe it till you turn blue, but if your name isn't Wachowski, it's kind of hard to see it in your mind, until you see it on the screen. Cause it's, I mean, Neo and the real world. Yeah. I mean, how do you see that unless you actually give them a proof of concept and say, okay, here's some money, shoot 3 pages, and we'll take a look at it. And if it looks like what you're talking about, cool. If not, see you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
They did that for Iron Man. They did that for a lot of movies. I remember Iron Man 1. They didn't believe that, this is part of the story, but they didn't believe what's his name? The director could get that actor to do what they said he would do. I mean, at the time, I think he was on a bad run, just getting out of court, not having a good track record. So they're like, probably didn't want to invest in him or insure him and all these things.
Yeah. And I think they had to spend a ton of money on insurance, or that Robert Downey Jr. lost a lot of money because he had to pay for the insurance. But obviously it worked out big time when you look at all the points that he was able to negotiate for, and the franchise through those movies. He
resurrected not only, I think that movie did so well that I could have sworn it picked up the Marvel universe off the ground and made it like a force and gave it a ton of momentum.
Yeah, I believe it did, and that was the one that definitely catapulted me into the Marvel world, and I think it did with a lot of other people. And I believe that director, was it Jon Favreau?
Favreau, that's right.
And then, I mean, look at all the things that he's been able to do since then as well. Not only produce, but also, was he part of Mandalorian?
He's like the EP EP. Him and Dave Filoni, who Filoni comes from like all the Star Wars animated franchise.
Oh, nice.
But I mean, those guys both know that universe really well. I think Dave Filoni especially. But that's what I keep forgetting his name. I'm spaced out. I'm so tired, and I've been working. What's the director's?
Jon Favreau.
Yeah. Favreau came to Disney and said, "Look, the fans want Boba Fett," and he pitched him this whole Mandalorian thing, and they thought it was rad, but he had been successful with Iron Man and I think he'd done other Disney stuff. What did he do? The Jungle Book? Yeah,
he did like the Jungle Book. Yeah. I think Lion King too.
And he used some of the similar technology. Because he was doing those compressed sets on Jungle Book or Lion King with the kid, and most of the background was all just blue screen, but it was these little sets that would then, be orientated into a CG environment or something to that effect. And I think that probably translated into Mandalorian and additional technology, and they were talking to the people that did all the Avatar, blue suits and the markers and the tracking and all that. And they kind of reversed that and said, instead of tracking in post, they could track live.
Which is crazy.
In the contrast, like you were talking about a minute ago about, what you could do, even with just a portion of their budget. I mean, there's good films. What's it good? There's a good one with a couple people from Saturday Night Live called, it's Kristen Wiig and what's the guy? Bill Hader. I think it's called The Skeleton Twins or The Skeleton Sister Brother, something like that. It's just a super little indie. I think it was like a couple $1 million.
Yeah. Yes. You know what? I think I heard that director speak at the Palm Springs Film Festival.
Yeah.
Because
It
I
was a
had not
great
seen
movie.
that movie. But a buddy of mine who was there like went to this panel specifically because of that director. He's like, dude, this
Yeah.
movie is like, you got to see it. It's incredible. And he talked about his journey and what he was able to do for, not that much money. And he, there were some, indie films can be rough, but they
Good,
were able to salvage an incredible film from that.
It looked like they were relying on the story and the acting because there wasn't anything to it. All the sets were just sort of looked like, an exterior location or inside of a house. It didn't look like they had done anything too wild. I think they spent all their money on talent.
Yeah, and I think that's a good, a good kind of rule of thumb, because if you have an incredible, location and all these different, this great budget, but if the acting and the story's not there, the audience isn't going to get engaged. So it's kind of like you're blowing the money. And I feel like it's so much better to just have a great story and good acting than all this crazy production value, because if the acting's not there, you're not going to be drawn in as an audience member.
I agree.
The film's not going to do well.
That's part of why I'm not a big fan of some of these newer Marvel flicks, is because, it's I don't know how much acting you can put into those, but maybe they're not given the opportunity to get really deep. However, it feels like it's just a lot of show and a lot of flash, and the acting and the story are sort of minimal, and it's all just roller coaster thrill ride. And to me, I guess there's a place for that now, but I prefer the story, the character, and the deep and the realness. Like Iron Man 1 was a Marvel flick, but you still connected to this guy in a really deep way and felt for him, and he changed. And now the movies are just, the whole world is at war, and it's just like, it's so much, dude. It's hard to even really get connect with it anymore.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I think the thing is now too is they're just, if I'm going to be honest, I feel like they're just trying to make as much money as possible, and to not only market to us in America but also overseas as well. So they're working with an international market, and they're just trying to make it as flashy and big with as many stars as possible to kind of draw on the audience that way. And because of that, many times, and it can be hard when you have that many characters, and there's some incredible actors, don't get me wrong, but how do you have, when you have that many characters, it's hard to develop them that well, because they only have kind of limited screen time. You can't have that much screen time with all of them, right? So you have like these little snippets of each, and while they're exciting to see, it's hard because it's not fully fleshed out. And that's why I feel like some of those individual movies like the Iron Man, or even, but I actually even really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that was the first one. And other movies where you can get to learn about those characters. And I understand what they did. They did those individual movies and then kind of brought them all together for this big Avengers one, which is just, I feel like, a huge cash cow for them, rightfully so. They just crushed it clearly. And that's what it's about, I feel like, for them.
Yeah, they're a different animal. They got a big payroll and a big movie to make, and they kind of have to. It's a big investment. They're relying on that thing to pay back, because they're probably a few $100 million in the hole making it.
Yeah, and I think that they have that formula down now, so they're kind of aware, and I feel like that's where they're banking on those franchise movies that they'll be able to go back to and earn consistent, millions, if not billions of dollars,
they'll keep making
over time.
Money. Yeah, for sure. They'll make money on when they go to the theater, and then they make money when they go to Netflix, and then they go to Amazon. They just keep trickling through, and getting rental and sales money.
Yeah, I'm sure they got merchandise and all that stuff associated. So it's just like never ending.
I bet the merchandise is probably more than the movie, to be honest with you.
Wouldn't surprise me.
McDonald's cups and toy, Target, the whole aisle at Target, the toy aisle is all full of Marvel. It's blown out.
For real.
My nephew's just all about it. Every Lego thing he's got, every T-shirt he wears is all Marvel. He's just covered.
And I mean, and that's just not only in the U.S. but internationally as well. And that's the thing. It's an international, and some of the international money that they're getting can be more than the U.S. money, which is crazy to think about. But that also changed the mindset of where I mean, they're clearly thinking about all those things when they're shooting the movie, when they're writing it, when they're marketing it. Like, all of those things are coming into play for them. And this isn't like a little indie passion project that like they're doing this specifically.
That's interesting.
Money.
I would like to kind of hear your side. Is so since you've taken a couple of your ideas all the way through. Can you talk about what it was like to take them through the sales sort of portion of their life, whether that was at a film festival and then talking to people and actually trying to get someone to buy your film in one way or another and recoup some of the costs, if not get a profit? Like, how far have you gone through that?
So I just started to do that with this film. The other films, I did not do that at all. I just solely made them just to create content.
When you say this film, you're talking about the interview.
The interview, excuse me. The interview. So I did 4 films before this that were very, very low budget. They were all comedies too, shot within maybe a day, maybe 2 days. Each film, so very, very quick turnaround, and they all did very well. And that was with like a very limited production value as well, which I feel like you can get away with a little bit more for a comedy as opposed to a drama. And people were asking me like, what do you have next? Are you like looking into distribution? What festivals have you submitted to? And I really didn't submit to any, but I was fortunate for the festivals. The one main festival that I was a part of, I ended up winning this festival like every film that it was a small local film community called Scary Cow in San Francisco. And it's like a film cohort. Yeah. And if you use if you work with their members, they do screenings throughout the years, and they'll give you like a small budget if you do well in their festival. And I was fortunate enough to have every film that's been a part of it has won some budget, and with the budget that I've received from the festival, I've used that to basically pay for the next film, because films, even indie shorts, can be very, very expensive, as I'm sure you know, and almost like a bottomless pit. So I wanted to make sure that every film that I did remained within the budget, and I did that even with this film. However, with this film, I felt like it could have legs. So what I did is I was able to still shoot it within the allotted budget that I had won previously, which was $4,000. But then afterwards, I knew that if I really wanted to kind of try to market it, I'd have to go to film festivals, do different things, and everybody's got different routes. Like I knew I wanted to go to film festivals just to kind of network and just to have that experience, at least go through it once. Other people, that can go just straight to distribution, and I wasn't really even aware that there was a market for short films. There is. It's not a huge market by any means, but there definitely is a small market for that. But there's other friends that I know that just do like indie features, and they don't even deal with the festivals. They just look for distribution, and which is fine for them. So everybody's kind of got a different path, but through going to festivals, I met some incredible people that gave me some great advice, and I had a few distribution offers. I haven't accepted anything yet, but also just the networking that I was able to do in terms of directors, producers, and we're all in the same boat. Sure. And the help that they've given me and the guidance that I've got has been truly, truly incredible. And I was fortunate that, we've done very, very well. We had a really, really good festival run that we're just kind of coming on the tail end of it. And it sucks, like the last big festival I really want to go to happened I think it was like the end of March, so obviously it got canceled. And then they did a virtual thing a little bit later on, but it's which is cool, but it's not kind of the same experience. Yeah. But
I miss movies, dude. I really miss movies. Going to the theater, sad.
Right? Yeah, I know, and it's completely changed the industry. And I think right now, for those people that can continue to create it, even if it's just right, or be more creative, those are the ones that'll hopefully come out even more so ahead when things calm down, which they will. I don't know exactly when, and it might not go exactly back to normal. I think what we're dealing with might be the new normal longer than many of us would want, but it's something that we kind of have to learn to deal with it and figure out how to be creative, whether it's just doing more virtual stuff or which I think there's already been features that have come out like that. I think there was a horror one that was more so just kind of like a virtual Zoom call. Mm-hmm. So it's about finding ways to be creative or limiting crew size or just, you just got to be more creative and it's possible, but you just got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. The couple of jobs that I've had during this COVID thing, the director's communicating to the AD over an iPad on a Zoom call.
Zoom? Oh, really? That's interesting.
So the director and the agency or whoever else, they're not even there physically.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, most of depending on the project, but if there's agents or producers, many times they're just sitting in Video Village, right? Just watching on a monitor either way.
Right.
So now they can just do that just remotely, because either way they're all together, talking, but they're just looking at a screen. They're not out there engaging. So it makes sense that it would be kind of easiest for them to do that. It wouldn't surprise me if you see more of that happening, even when things come back to normal, in all honesty. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, they'll learn that that being there doesn't really add a lot of value. So they say, well, let's just not be there.
Yeah.
Or if they absolutely need to, but sure. Yeah. I think a lot of that, I've heard about major schools realizing that they can sell education without having to build a parking lot, maybe, or have a giant classroom.
And you minimize so many costs, right? In terms of like utilities, different maintenance, even if it's like essential workers that are cleaning up after the classrooms or whatever it might be, you're saving so much money by being able to go virtual. The only thing that I kind of have an issue with are some of those schools that cost, a lot of money that don't discount the students at all. They're still charging the same price.
Like it's $50,000 a year, whether you're here or not.
Yeah. It's like a different experience going to Harvard, not being able to.
I couldn't do it. I could never learn like that. I have to be there. I'm not the best learner. I'm not the best student already. So if it was over Zoom and I had to wait in line to ask a question, or I don't think it would go over well for me.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with me, man. The struggle is real, and my wife is in education, and she's a principal now. Her first year as a principal at an elementary school.
Wow.
So obviously, it's the toughest time to be in education. I feel like, just in general, and especially starting off.
Wow, her first year as a principal, and what happens? This.
Yeah, and
That's
elementary
crazy.
school is a school that everybody wants to reopen, because those are the little ones where, the parents are losing it when they're at home. They need the most supervision. And
is that like first grade or kindergarten?
So it's kindergarten through fifth grade.
Oh,
Kindergarten through fifth grade. So you're dealing with those little kids that need a lot of supervision, and also. They really gain a lot from that social interaction.
Sure.
And it's hard when they can't have that. And they're working hard to reopen, and it looks like they might be able to do that in a few weeks. They have to apply for a waiver, so we'll see what happens. But yes, he's been working incredibly hard since she reopened, since before they opened school. I mean, she's spending a lot of time because they're trying to figure it all out together, right? And there's a learning curve that everybody has to learn from scratch, and no one's ever done it before. So, it's just a lot.
Good. And for her to be the principal, she's kind of a go-to, like, hey, there's a problem. It's your problem,
Exactly.
And it's a very divided opinion. There's a lot of people out there that think it's the worst idea in the world for kids to go back to school. There's a lot of people out there that think it's the best idea in the world. And they both have their argument.
Yeah, and everybody that I've and I've talked to, my wife and several other people in education, and everyone that I know in education, they want schools to reopen, but they want to make sure that it's done in a safe manner. And if it can't, then they'd rather err on the side of caution. But the problem is you have many people, even many parents, that are kind of just, over their kids being home. So like, sure. I don't care. Like schools need to open, right? Yeah. Like yesterday, yeah. Right? And that is added pressure that they're dealing with as well. And I understand it, but it's a difficult situation.
Sure is. I wouldn't want to be a school principal for any age group right now.
Me neither.
Man. Just dealing with the parents alone about all the different issues and how you're going to handle it and how you're going to reduce. I mean, all the different.
Yeah, and it is very hard, and obviously parents are especially in elementary school. I feel like they're having a tough time, right? Because those are the kids that need a lot of supervision, like I mentioned. So for those parents that are working from home, which many parents are now. Or they might not have had supervision. It makes it a lot harder because even if you're going into the office, then who's going to watch, your right. kid at home? Or if you're working from home, how are you basically supervising your kid and working as well? So work's lacking. So it's going to help. It's definitely going to, I feel like, boost the economy when schools can reopen. But it's just important to make sure that it's done in a safe manner, which, because it's about, I think, the protection of the kids and then also the family as well that they go back to, because there's several people that have, elderly and whatnot at home. So,
yeah, younger kids may not get the virus and get sick as easily, but I think they, as far as I know, they transmit, and they could transmit from, like you said, grandma, mom and dad, back to the teacher. I mean, it could just keep going and going.
Yeah, and that's the issue. And it's also hard, like try telling, a group of 5-year-olds not to, hang out, like touch each other or go within like 6 feet. Yeah, good luck telling that.
It's interesting to think about is like remote learning. If you let's say you were going to film school, because I think film school of there's many things, but film school will probably be in the top 3 of, I'm talking like on a college level where you need to interact with your classmates to finish projects.
Yeah.
Like English, you may be able to avoid everyone or do it via online, but film school, I mean, you got to go get a camera and rent gear and go bake something in your group. I think film school is probably the toughest. I guess I can't say the toughest, but one of the toughest things to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, I'd say like anything where you typically need a group of people to collaborate and to work together in a set space. If they're not allowed to do that, you're going to struggle, whether it's film or let's say like music or anything like along the lines of that. It makes it very, very difficult. And some of the best learning is when there's limited things that you could do online, but in terms of actually being able to produce projects and to work together, I mean, you could do, I feel like a decent amount of maybe pre-production, but when it actually turns to like doing projects, it's near impossible to do it remotely, unless you just do an entire Zoom thing. But that's not what most people, go to film school to do. They want to be able to,
Can you imagine like being at like UCLA or USC film school? And you got in, and you're there, and you're kind of finding your groove, and then COVID, and it's like, what a bummer.
It's horrible, and same thing also for the actors too. Like it's very hard having like theater productions, or even when you're trying to study a scene. It's a very different experience when you're doing it like virtually, as opposed to like interacting with someone in person. So I feel like anything that requires interaction, such as like film is a perfect example, those students are really going to struggle the most.
You were saying that COVID hit and you missed out on a big film festival for the interview. You were going to get to talk. I think you're heading down the road talking about what you were doing with that film as far as sales and recouping costs. I was interested to hear like how you went about that. What was the running time on that film? It was
It was just under 15 minutes.
So taking something that was 15 or so minutes, how do you go find people that are interested in buying something of that size?
Well, in all honesty, I didn't even, and I haven't sold it by any means, and who knows, I still might not, but I wasn't even initially encouraged to do so. I just wanted to kind of go through the festival circuit and to just experience that, and also to share with the film with other people as well. Because so many people invested so much time and energy to the project, and I was very happy with it. I wanted it to be more than just show it at one festival and then no one sees it or just put it online. I wanted it to be able to,
give it its due diligence.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let it live, let it breathe a little.
Yeah, and respect also the people that invested so much time and energy into the project as well, and to show their talents also. And who knows, maybe someone else might see their work as their camera work and be like, oh, that cinematographer is incredible. Like, I'd like to work with them, or that actor or actress was incredible. I'd love them for my project, and to hopefully so they can get more work out of it as well. Like, that was really the goal. And then along the lines, people came up to me and inquired about distribution. I was like, oh, what are you talking about? Yeah. And I met, some people that had actually made money off of their short film, and they told me, they gave me some great advice, because I wasn't even aware that you could make money off of a short film. I thought that was just kind of a money pit and something that you just realized that you were going to lose money on.
Just a hobby, man. Just having fun.
Or it can be like a calling card or kind of something to build up your resume to kind of show your work. But it's been incredible. And through this project, I've had like a few people offer distribution. I've had some meeting, like a virtual meeting with, because it happened like right after COVID, with an exec from CBS through their diversity program. I had an agent who wanted to sign me because they saw the film. They want to sign me as a director because they saw the film in a festival. So those opportunities kind of create themselves. And then I met some incredible people along the way as well. And these are people in the same boat. And you never know, what's going to happen with your career, but it's great when you find other people that, that do great work as well. And you can see their work by watching some of these films in these festivals that you would normally never see. Because, there's so many short films out there. It's almost impossible to scroll through all of them, right?
Well, and it's another good thing is I went and saw it once in North Hollywood. And I forget how many films screened that time. I think it was maybe 10 or 12 or something. But whenever you go to a screening or a festival for shorts, you naturally kind of do your own judgment, right? You're like, that was pretty good. Let's see the next one. And at the end, you're like, all right, this one was great. This one was cool. That one was all right. And the rest sucked, But yours was like above and beyond better than, I guess, to be honest with you, I had to say yours, and I forget which other one was just like almost as good. There was one that was like right in there with you, and the rest you could tell were just not up to par, so to speak, I guess is the best way to put it. Like you could tell they just weren't there with the timing or the lighting, or it just felt like it needed something. But I have to say that yours, and I hate to say that I forget that other one that I saw, but yours and this other one they felt like they really had a lot of like effort put in, and they paid, and all that, it was attention was paid to all these details that shows up when you're watching it as an audience member. Even if you don't know how filmmaking works and you don't know how to run a camera or lighting, you watch something and like, okay, there's an amateur thing going on here. I can't put my finger on it, but I know as an audience, and yours had all the tick marks. Like, okay, the lighting wasn't totally screwed up. The camera movement made sense. The acting wasn't overdone. Like all those things, so I'm surprised that you haven't had people trying to do more. I guess maybe COVID probably put a damper on that, but
yeah, I had several projects that I wanted to, kind of that are in purgatory.
Yeah.
I'll just say until things get figured out. But
Yeah.
we've had a really great response, and we've been very fortunate. And it's really thanks to the very hard and tireless work of our entire cast and crew.
Yeah.
And I'm incredibly grateful to have found some incredible people that were willing to work on the project because they believed in the project. And that's why I felt like it was. I wanted to make sure that, to give the film legs or as much viewership as possible, to also honor the hard work that they put into the film as well.
That's awesome.
And and I feel like also with the drama too, you really do have to work on a lot of the production value, especially when it comes to festivals, because dramas are I'd say probably 70 to 80%, from at least what I've heard from different festival directors. They normally get mostly dramas.
Oh, really?
And then there's like, then you have like some, horror and comedy and maybe animation, but drama by far is kind of the biggest category from just about every festival director that I've talked to. So you have so much more competition.
Really?
And there's some incredible films that just never make it into festivals for so many different reasons. And that's one of the things that I found out also is like, I would get into these festivals and I'd be like, man, I can't believe I got into this festival. This is amazing. And then I would get like denied by this other like little festival. How did this? But there's so
like straight
many...
up, they would they'd say no, thank you. Like right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, and they were like these smaller like little festivals that and it's like, how did I not get into this festival and got into this one? But there's so many moving pieces that I've learned throughout this process and variables that are out of your control. First off, some of these festivals get thousands of submissions. Like I think Sundance, for example, is probably over like 10,000 shorts. So you have like, not the festival directors aren't looking at these films. They hire several different people and then they kind of go through tiers. Yeah. And some people's, tastes are very different.
So you get seen by some random person who just happens to not like it, and they put a no on that one, and the no goes to the main guy. He does, instead of watching it, he just says, yeah, no, even though he may like it.
Well, it might not even get through the ranks. Like it kind of can go through like, they have like one person wants and they might just not understand their film. It might just be like a volunteer or whoever it might be, and they just might not understand or not like it or just not vibe well with them. So it just doesn't move forward. And and it could also be a programming thing too. I feel like 15, like obviously with shorts, the shorter the better. There's no question about that. But 15 minutes is kind of that, I feel like that sweet spot. If you can go under 15 minutes, that's great. But if you look at many of the films that have won, like let's say the Oscars, those are normally films that are a little bit closer for the most part. When it comes to, I'd say like live action, some of the animations are very short. A lot of the live actions I've seen around like, maybe 18, 20 minutes because it's hard to tell a full story in under 20 minutes. And I remember going to Palm Springs and listening to one of the producers that did a short called Skin that actually ended up winning the Oscar and a few years ago. And they said that this short was getting denied by like every single festival, and they were almost about to pull it from the festival market or scene, and then they got into a festival and they ended up winning. I think it was maybe Holly Shorts, or I forgot what festival they won, and then they started getting into more festivals, and then and when it gets into some festivals, different directors from different festivals will go to different festivals, so they might see that film and be like, they might come up to you and be like, and that's happened to me several times too, saying, hey, I'd love for your film to be in my festival. So the more exposure it has, the more kind of it's likely to have success. Yeah. Especially if it does well and wins awards. And we've been very fortunate to have done very well in many festivals. So that kind of encourages, it kind of gives
it's like an organic algorithm. It's like when someone likes it, they talk about it, and then the next person, then that grows.
Exactly. And I've also heard that many festival directors talk to each other too. So a film might not be a good fit for one festival, but they might call that other festival and be like, you know what, this film isn't good for us, but I think that it would be a perfect fit for your festival. I think you should, check it out. Yeah. And I've heard that happen many, many times as well.
So where do you go now with your movie? assuming,
so
I guess there, the economy's got some bumps in it, but I mean, you're not done. You're not pushing it, right?
No, not by the least. And one thing that I'm talking to different people about distribution and or other ways to hopefully earn money or generate income from it that I could shovel into another production that could hopefully generate, more money and kind of start through baby steps. And one of the things that I've definitely realized is when you're done with a project, try to make sure, if you can, have something else in the works in the process that you're either, even if it's not fully scripted out, at least a few different ideas that might be fleshed out. Because one of the things that I got in almost every festival is, what are you working on next? Like, what's next?
It's like the number one question whenever you're socializing with, people in the industry. It's like, I just finished X job. Oh, what's next? I always want to know what the hell you're doing next. You have to have an answer. You can't be like nothing, sitting on the couch. Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah. And so I learned that the hard way, like the first few times I did films, because I just was doing them just for the sole purpose of creating.
Sure.
Right. I didn't have that foresight. And then after getting asked that question enough, I'm like, man, I got to make sure that I have something next. And then now I kind of have at least 3 different projects and what I literally do that are dramedy. One's a comedy, one's a drama, and then one's kind of like a thriller, just because you never know who you're going to meet.
Sure.
But that's because that's like, I enjoy doing all those things. So if you're only drama, then just stick to that. If you're only comedy, just stick with that. But I think it's good to at least have 1 or 2 different ideas within that genre if you want to stick to that, just because you never know. One idea might excite one investor. Like
Super
one of
true.
my ideas, I kind of would test it out. So it'd go when someone would say, what ideas do you have? I would actually gauge the audience. So I'd tell them 2 ideas that are very different. And I did that in about 4 different festivals. And the audience reacted incredibly to like one idea. Like they all wanted to see this movie like today. The other one, they were not, you can tell, like they were not excited. Like, oh, cool. Yeah. Well, let us know when it comes out.
No oohs and ahs coming from the audience.
Yeah. But one idea specifically, they were so excited. So then it was kind of clear that was the one that I wanted to focus on. And that was also the one that a few investors came up to me too and said that, hey, when you're ready, we'll be willing to put down, this amount of money. Like,
he said, hey, I was in the audience and you quickly described this project, and the audience went, ooh, I want to put money. Here's some money. Make that, because these people want to see. Like, you already got the guy interested because the audience reacted, and it got him interested.
And it creates excitement, and that's a big thing too. Also, is you want to kind of gauge audience excitement, and when you hear like an audience react so well to a specific idea or a story, then that kind of it gives you a clue. In terms of maybe you should do that idea. I mean, at the end of the day, I do always feel that you should follow your gut and what you want to do, but also at a certain point, I mean, it's so much time and energy, and every project that I do right out, I love. Like, there's some that I might be more excited to do over the others, given different situations, but I really am. I do love every project that I'm a part of. Yeah. But I also love, a big part of that is getting, making projects that excite the audience, and to see as a filmmaker, to me, the best thing that I've experienced is to see how something that I've done affects an audience one way or another, whether that might be to make them laugh, to make them cry, to make them think, to inspire change, whatever that might be. That's kind of the best gift that I've ever received as a filmmaker, more so than any other award that I got, which have been great, and the budget as well has been great to do other things. But I feel like that's really what has inspired me the most to create more stuff.
Man, I almost want to just be like, good little closing there, but I want to ask you like one more thing, dude.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep doing actor, director, like producer, writer, like where you kind of like it's sort of your boat that you're floating?
So I want it. That's a great question, because in everything that I've done so far, I've wrote it, I've directed, produced, acted, and then
It's a lot to do. Yeah.
everything.
I mean, it's like,
right. So I do want to continue that in the future, but maybe in a more limited thing. So, for example, maybe do a more secondary role if I act in it. Maybe some not act at all, and then maybe just act on the side, and separate acting and directing. I'm open to. I want to explore all of those options just so I can see what I enjoy the most. Because for this project was the hardest to direct for a number of different reasons. Just because, just drama was very different from comedy, and comedy it was so much easier to jump from being director just like to being the actor because it's more lighthearted. It was fun. But with a drama, you kind of had to settle in more, at least for me personally, and it was much harder to jump back and forth. So I was fortunate to have an incredible producers and incredible, AD that also, that had directing experience that I feel like could give me good advice as well. But thinking about it, it would have been so much easier if I just focused on directing and had much more of a smaller secondary role. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that I'm working on in the next, hopefully one of the next projects that I can do, depending on, we'll see what happens. Yeah. But to play maybe a much smaller role and focus more on just directing and not the acting.
Cool. Like you said earlier, you live and learn, and you kind of like, you become water. You put water in a cup, the water becomes the cup. What does Bruce Lee say?
Yeah, I know what you're trying to say. I don't know the exact terminology.
Be water. Be water.
Yeah, but that's what it is. You kind of have to go with the flow. And I'll be honest, I had no idea when I first started in this industry that I would ever want to direct, ever want to write, ever want to produce until I did it. And it was more so I did it because I was sick of waiting for opportunities or for fun roles to come around. Dude. And like
I couldn't agree with you more on the sick of waiting for the opportunity. Nothing ever happened good that I sat around. Like you have to just go after it.
You really have to. You have to do it. And I've made mistakes on every single project that I've done. And I will likely continue to make mistakes on every single project that I've done, but it's about learning from those mistakes and getting better. And I feel like I've been able to do that on every single project. So I'll see when that comes up, when one issue comes up again that happened maybe in the past, I'll be able to notify it and then just become a better creator, because we all start from somewhere, right? Like even Steven Spielberg didn't start off making incredible films, I'm sure, but he had that passion and that vision, and he just went out there with a Super 8 and he started filming. Right. And the more he did, the more he learned.
Well, it's like working out, you got to go to the gym if you want to get all ripped, but you got to go every day. So you want to make good films, you got to keep doing it and get that rhythm and get the people around you that like do this job well and do that job well. I think Robert Zemeckis said it really good in an interview I saw. I think it was something about just after he got out of film school, he had like already kind of developed like these few people that he really liked working with. It's a different time in the world, but
I think that's a very important point that I didn't fully talk about, and I think that's the biggest thing, is surrounding yourself with a quality, crew essentially, or people that you trust, that you work well with. And the more that you work together, the more that you trust each other, the more that you understand each other, and you hopefully will all develop together. And that's the biggest thing, is it's near impossible to do everything on your own. And if you do, you're likely going to go insane if you do that forever.
That's what I was wondering, because I know that job you were doing so much, and I was just like, wow, you did a lot and it came out good. So that says something. You didn't fall flat anywhere.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I mean it. You really didn't. It was a good film.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate that. But it would have been so much better if I had someone that, like a props person, right. Like you, an art director, it would have made the film that much better. And those are things that I've learned even from this film. And that was really the biggest takeaway, is making sure to find people that are great in that department. I just didn't have, or felt like I didn't have the budget for that for this specific film, but to more so to focus on that, because the value that they add is so incredible, and you take that for granted. You really do. So if you can surround yourself with a good crew that is that is huge. That is absolutely, absolutely huge. And you'll hopefully develop and work and come up all together. And that's an incredible experience.
So it's the number one thing, like aside from family to me, is to have that happen, and I've experienced it to some degree, but it's always working on like some project by some director. It's not like our project. We're just a good group of people working towards this other guy's thing, whoever that may be. But it's not, to do it for your own, like we're all putting a project together. You're directing, you're acting, you're producing, and like you kind of like have a friendship, and then it is profitable and you all make a profit from it. I mean, that to me is like heaven. Like if you could do that, you're making a movie and making money, and that's your job, and you're hanging out with your friends.
I feel the exact same way, man. I mean, life is short, and I realized at an early age that I couldn't have a traditional 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, no way.
I didn't know what I wanted to do, as many people don't in life as they're kind of going through college and trying to figure stuff out. But I just knew what I didn't want to do. And then I was very fortunate to kind of fall into this industry, which, is very, I'd say, untraditional for most people. Right. But I'm a big believer, even if it's something on the side, and like the projects that I was working on were like a side hustle. So I was still doing other like industries and other things that I'm, did not get into acting for, so I can support, doing my own project. And it gave me so much life and vigor. It was incredible. And when you add the ability to potentially, earn income and a living, and to do that with your friends and being able to choose who you work with, it's an absolutely incredible experience. And something I feel like everybody within the industry strives for, and rightfully so. And it's an opportunity. It's possible. It's not easy by any means, but nor should it be.
Yeah. Well, it's it's these personality types like me and you and many other people. We kind of want to go our own way. We want to do it our own way, and we want to learn, and we want to create, and we have ideas. And being somewhere doing a mundane job that is in the same room every day at the same parking spot and all that kind of thinking, it's the end of that feeling.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I knew right away. I think I was a teenager and some job entering data or something. And, in the moment you're like, wow, that's like $4 more an hour than I'm making now. Let's do that. And then a couple weeks into it, you're like, I'm sitting in a room with no windows. I don't even know if it's daylight, and you're just like, this sucks. And you're like weighing the difference all day. Like as you enter the information, should I quit today? What am I going to do?
Yeah. And I think that, and I felt the same way. Now, granted, I know that there's some people that might want to get involved in film that don't have a background. And I'm not telling you to like quit your job and to dive full hard into it if you're like that, but there's still ways to do it on the side. And even if it's like on the weekends or at nights or whenever it is, but make sure that you're still doing it. And that's what several people within the industry do. They might just work on it, on the side or at night or within their free time. And now is a great time.
Now is an awesome time.
Now's like the best time.
Well, not only and that's actually kind of a bummer, is this COVID thing. Like as soon as it got locked down, I'm thinking, I'm not doing anything all day, but I can't go make a thing with my friends because you can't socialize, and no one wanted to be near each other. So you're like, you've got the free time, but you can't go make a movie on your
out. Yeah, I know. But there's other things that you could do. You could write, or you can figure out projects or get people in line together.
That's why I'm Zooming with you right now.
Hey, man, we got to work together again, man. When things calm down, or and maybe even sooner, in all honesty, because that's what it's about, and just not being afraid. I felt like I had a lot of fear in the beginning of not wanting to fail, and nobody wants to fail, but at a certain point you just have to do something, right? And realize that you might make some mistakes along the way, but don't let fear hesitate or prevent you from attempting anything that you're passionate about. And that's
I did some dumb stuff, but I remember doing things that were it was almost not even bravery or fear. It was just ignorance, because I was so like in like 2001, I think, somewhere in there, 99, 2001, Adobe. I learned, I don't know how long it had been. I mean, it had been out for a while, but I realized that I could go buy Adobe software, install it on my computer, and get this cable, this FireWire cable, and plug my camera into my computer and import the footage, edit it, and then send it back to the camera.
To the camera?
I was like, why does this not exist? If this is in my bedroom right now, I'm going to just use it 24/7, right? So every penny, so to speak, not every, but I saved really hard at whatever job. I think it was in that same time frame as I was talking about that data entry. And I bought I think I realized, I didn't know much about computers, but I knew that if I was going to import like X amount of footage, that it would run out of RAM. So I was like, okay, I got to get a computer that can handle to make a 10-minute video, right? Because if you only have a little bit of RAM, it'll only do 2 minutes of video, and then it'll just freeze, and you'll lose your data. Yeah, so I had to get all the RAM. It had to be really powerful to run the software and so on. So I saved and saved, and it was a lot of money. It was a couple grand. And I went out to this computer guy that built custom computers, and I bought a computer. And my buddies are like, damn, it was big monitors, the big, it's all bulky. Yeah. Speakers are just clunky. And next thing you know, dude, I'm busting out videos, and I'm editing, and I'm putting titles on stuff, and I felt like I had upped my game so much. But the thing I was going to say is, you're mentioning how if you want to do it on your free time. Don't wait, don't be afraid. Now is an even better time. You can buy a camera that not only does it look a million times better, like a DSLR that has a focal length and stuff. A laptop is, you can get a laptop to edit video for under $1,000, I would think, at this point.
Oh, you absolutely can, with all the software that you need to associate with it. And there's so many
free
tutorials now online as well, where there's so much that you could learn now thanks to YouTube and different sites that are out there that can train you to do certain things that would be so hard that you would need to go to a traditional school for. And there's so much free content and information that's out there, and also people that want to work with you. Believe me, they do, but it's just a matter of finding them. That's the hard thing.
But if you can go get the camera and the software and make it, like you said, YouTube's out there. I was making these videos. There was no YouTube. So I'd take the camera to your friend's house, plug it in, and show them a video. And you're showing one person. I could put a video on YouTube and potentially, I bet 100 people could see that within a week, being who I am. There's people that have YouTube channels 1 million people see in the first day, but the opportunity is there. If I went and put it online, and then I also took the link and I spread that around to every website and email your friends, and then ask them to forward it. I mean, you could really do some grassroots marketing and make a film and set it on fire and get it out there on your own. If you really, knock on doors and pound the pavement, so to speak.
Absolutely. And there's several people that have done that, that have done absolutely that in one way or another. I mean, one guy I'm thinking about, I think is more so, was an entertainer. I think it was Little Dicky, who's a rapper, but he believed in himself, and he just went out there and put himself out there. And I think the first music video that he did, he was able to do for free by just going literally knocking on strangers' doors.
That's what I was saying. I think I remember that.
And it's an incredible video, and you see this, this video that would have cost, tens of thousands of dollars, if not much more, he was able to do for free by just putting himself out there, and he believed in himself. Yeah. And but I'm sure he got many no's along the way, right? But he wasn't afraid to fail. And I think that we could all learn a lot from a lesson like that, because it's just, when you put yourself out there, I feel like the universe will reward you. And that's something that many people have done. And I feel like many people need to do so. And you can just kind of let go you just got to take the leap.
Heck yeah, man. I think that's probably one of my best attributes is persistence, because I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and I don't have some specific skill that I'm amazing at, but I'll keep on going and keep trying.
I mean, And that's I mean, that's what you got to do. Just like Dory said, you just got to keep swimming. Just keep swimming. And I think that's a quality. I feel like that's a more important quality in all honesty. Than, I mean, well, first off, I don't think you're giving yourself enough credit. You're intelligent, smart, and capable.
I appreciate it. But you know what I mean? Like there's guys out there. They're like, I could, they could take apart an iPhone and rebuild it, and they know everything about like microchip. Like, I can't do that, but I could get you 20 iPhones in the different types, and I get you an iPhone from 2007 up until now. I get you every model of iPhone, but I can't take it apart. You know what I mean? So it's like,
but the thing is, you don't need to, because you can hire those guys.
Exactly.
And if they believe in you, and if you have one of the things, if you have like a clear vision, you'd be surprised in the people that, and a good idea or a good person, you'd be surprised about the people that will follow you or will be a part of, will want to be associated with you, because people want to do something good, especially in this industry. They want to be attached to good projects, because there's so many projects. I mean, you just really never know. Even with with every film that I've done, even though when I started the project, I had incredible faith in it, and especially when I was writing it out, when I had the vision, you just never know how it's going to turn out. There's so many variables, and I start every project so excited, but it's such a daunting task. Even by the end of it, you're so drained and you're exhausted. You're like, is this even good? Well, at least that's how I'm like. Do we have anything?
I'm with you. It's hard. I don't judge my own work very well. I honestly don't even work that good in a vacuum. I need to talk about the project, and someone like, so Nate, check this out, and you read it, and okay, that's funny, but this part doesn't make sense. And okay, I see why it doesn't make sense to you. I wrote it too fast. You go back, but I can't do that by myself, because I think I overthink my own work, or I just don't put things together, because in my head it worked, but on paper it didn't work so good. I have to have that interaction for myself. It's just the way my mind works.
I completely agree with you, and I'm the exact same way. And I think that's very important, because similar to what you said, there's some things that I have a clear vision for, and it's different for me. Well, it's not different for me, but especially for me, since I write it and direct it, there's so many things that I don't even think about, because it's already in my mind and it's not clearly written out. And I'm like other people like what is this? Like, what do you mean? Like, oh, you don't get? I'm like, oh yeah, because obviously you don't understand it, because it's like,
why are you in my mind? Why do I have to do
And many times, I mean, at the end also, after seeing the edit and going through so many different edits of the film, I've seen it so many times I almost become numb to it, and I honestly don't know if it's good until I see an audience reaction. And that's why the interaction between people and getting quality advice, because we talked about earlier, everybody has an opinion, but I think you can pick and choose, what advice you want to take, and it's incredibly helpful, because there's so many great ideas out there that have enhanced my films in the past, but I would have never got there if I didn't open up in the first place. And that's what you got to do.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, buddy.
You want to plug your stuff? You want to tell people where they can see either the interview or any of your other
Yeah, well, the interview, you can follow the interview on our Facebook page, which is the interview short film 2019. There's a lot of different interview short films apparently out there, but it's the interview short film 2019 on Facebook. And then it's the interview short film on Instagram. And I'll update the site as well with when we are in different festivals and whatnot. And then also I'm going to be posting on those sites links to previous work as well.
Cool. So
you can see the trajectory of the production value from let's say the first super low budget comedy for $1,000 to where we got to now, which is still a lot of fun, but just a very, very different film.
What about you? You want to put your social out there? They can find you?
Yeah. They can find me very easy on Instagram at Nate Duncan, and then same thing with Facebook, just Nate Duncan. I was very fortunate, and also the Twitter. I was very fortunate to get everything
all of them your name, huh?
Very early at my name.
No triple X's in the front or back or underscore or numbers. Just your name.
I got very, very lucky with that. So just
nice.
at Nate Duncan on Instagram and at Nate Duncan on Facebook if you'd like to follow and kind of see the progress of the interview as well as upcoming projects.
Can anyone see the interview now anywhere? Can you go to see it?
It's not listed anywhere online for free. However, if people are interested, I can definitely send them private links because I'm still working out distribution, and I got some advice from several different people. If you
they can check out those social and find out when they can maybe go see it or how to see it. Because I would love for people to see it. That would kind of be the driving thing here is for people to go put eyes on your film.
Yeah, and if we don't get, the distribution that we want, sometime soon, I was almost thinking of just releasing it for a short amount of time just during the quarantine. That's something that I might do if one of the distributors if it's not a deal breaker for them, if it's for like a limited time, that's something I'm still trying to work out. But that's something that I'm looking into and I would like to do if possible.
Yeah.
But I'll keep you posted if I can, but all of that information will be on all of our social sites.
Will you do the podcast with me again sometime?
I would love to.
Right.
Hopefully we're talking about a project that we're working on.
That'd be cool. That'd be great. I would like to do that. Anything with you. That little thing you did for me when you made a little video with me, that was fun, man. It's weird though, to be honest with you. It's like I'm gonna brown nose you again, but it's not that often that you get people who are moldable and willing to just go. There's so many times that people, they change their mind or they fall apart and they're just not confident in the moment, or they feel like something's changed and it's not working for them. And I asked you to help me. I did a little DIY project, and then you were in the sort of short film of putting that DIY project into a movie, or what it would kind of feel like put into a movie. And I just needed you to act. It was a couple hours, but I didn't have a lot of information for you. It was just like, hey, show up and act. There's this prop, and it's this crazy sci-fi looking thing, and you just got to go with it. And it was like fly by the seat of our pants. But instead of saying, are you sure this is what's it going to look like? And what does the light look like? You didn't do all that. You're just like, all right, you want me to open the door? Okay, cool. You want me to turn this way? Okay. You just ran with it,
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Alex. That's more of a testament to you because it's not like you do that with everyone, right? But if you believe in someone, and I fully believed in you, and I know what you're capable of, then you want to do that project. It's like if Steven Spielberg calls you up, like, hey, do you want to do something? Like, you're not going to ask, oh, I don't know.
Are you comparing me to Steven Spielberg? This is awesome.
But I mean, that's where I see your talent level. And I feel like many times we don't believe in ourselves, or we feel bad about asking favors. At least I know I did in the beginning, but the reality of it is we can't do it alone. And you did almost everything besides having me and Luann there. You did everything else essentially on your own, and which is still a lot. Yeah. And it turned out incredible. But it was absolutely incredible.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, it wouldn't have happened without you. I was like, I had to get it done, and along with anything that's low budget, you have low time. Yeah. So it's like, hey, I can only get these 4 people to help me tonight because 2 of them aren't available tomorrow. And then, the schedules are what they are. And, it's super helpful when people can jump in, like you said, when you're making something that's low to zero budget, you don't have a lot to offer, and you may not even have a lot of time to explain so many things because it's kind of just like there is no script, and it's helpful to have people that are, cheerful and willing and creative to collaborate with, that can kind of just do their thing and have fun with their part of it and make that whole thing work. It's fun. I wish I had time to do more of it. I look forward to making that time and to be honest with you, working enough time to take care of the family and do that, and then create that time, which is part of the whole freelance thing. You want to work and then do your thing, you know.
And it'll happen because it needs to happen, especially with your stuff, because you're talented, Alex. And like I said,
you're talented.
And there's so many things that I've done in the past that I've never even seen. You know, it's never seen the light of day. You don't know what happened. The project might have died, or this, that, and the other. And after that happens, I think you learn from those projects, and you have to kind of make better decisions, right? But you're someone that I knew, that I trusted, and more importantly, I had faith in your talent and your creativity, and I knew it was going to turn out incredible, and it turned out even better than I expected. Thanks, and that was you doing everything on your own, but that was because this was something that you were passionate about, and you just got to keep doing that, man, because I want to see more of your stuff. It's too good.
I love that style. I really like to make something in that that world of sort of like mystery sci-fi. The normal guy gets caught up in the mystery sci-fi that's happening all around him, that feeling. I love that.
And there's a market for that, man. I'm telling you, many of the festivals that I've been to, they were yearning for like good sci-fi or interesting sci-fi, because there's such a good audience for that as well. But there just wasn't enough content. There's some, don't get me wrong, and there's some that are incredible, but it's I'd say it's very limited when you look at some of the other stuff that's out there.
Yeah. I gotta just do it. It's all comes down to just doing it. I gotta work right now. I gotta work my tail off and kind of get back up to speed with work stuff. But hopefully we don't get another virus, and like things will go in that direction, and can kind of like pad the bank account a little bit, take care of the bills, and then create those chunks of time to do your own thing. And I'll be calling you.
I'll be answering, man. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Nate Duncan, and you gave him your contact and ways to get a hold of you.
At Nate Duncan, NateDuncan, on Instagram and Facebook. Just at Nate Duncan, you'll find me.
Cool. Look him up on IMDb too, and chase him down and hire him for your movie.
Yes, please hire me.
Me too.
I want to work when everything's calmed down. I've been stuck at home too long.
I'm telling you. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Crazy times. I appreciate it, Alex. Great seeing you, man. As always.
Talk to you. See you
soon. Hope to work with you soon. Look forward to it. Have a good one.
Later.
Peace out.
Peace.